When I say coach, what's the image that comes up in your brain? When you think of two people interacting, what comes to mind? Maybe it's a sports coach. Maybe it's some relationship that you had as you were coming up through the ranks of the hobbies and the competitions that you participated in. Maybe if you're a working professional or if you've had some type of business exposure, it was some consultant that came in and dropped expert advice on everybody. But my guess is, and I can't read your mind, but I bet that it was some discrepancy between an expert and a novice. Is that right? I know it is for me. And furthermore, in most of the coaching education that I've been through, it's presented like this. Accumulate as much knowledge on the subject that you can so you can turn around and communicate that. Here's a simpler way of saying it. Learn as much as you can so you can tell people what to do on that particular topic. Now, no one says it like that, but it's basically it. So if you're going to go get a certification in program design, I would bet that you're going to talk to people about how they should order their workouts. If you go to get more education on nutrition, I bet that you're going to proselyte saying, have you met my Lord and Savior of macronutrients? That's stupid, but you get what I'm saying. If it's something to do with the rehabilitative needs of the client, I wonder what it is that you're going to really be encouraging people to do. Now, in one sense, there's nothing wrong with that. But I believe that few of us respond very well to that type of interaction. To respond to somebody saying, you should really do this, it means that your level of competency has to be so dramatically low compared to the person advising you that you're desperate to achieve some type of acumen. I believe, however, that most people that are being coached are a lot smarter than that. As this video is being shot, it's pretty easy to get our hands on any information that's out there in any of those particular subject matters, especially as it relates to your health and your fitness. Secondly, because of that ease of information, we're being inundated with 25 times more data than we ever have across 17 different categories, and we're being told that we're supposed to care about all of that equally all the time. And that's overwhelming. And so what I want to do today is to present to you an alternative to that relationship of coaching and some very easy tools on how you might implement that new type of relationship. Now, before we get there, I want to give you an example of how, with the best intentions, we find ourselves in this predicament. If you look at the medical community, there's been drastic change in how that person that has an amazing amount of education goes about treating the patient. Now, previously, it was very one-dimensional. It was a silo of ailment and then prescription. And what's happening now, and it's a wonderful thing, make no mistake, people are zooming out and they're realizing that a majority of things that we're experiencing from a pathology standpoint is connected to lifestyle factors. And so when you go into a functional medicine practitioner, they're not going to run one test. They're going to run a lot of tests. After that assessment, they're going to not make one recommendation. They're going to make several. And so whereas we're graduating to a much more sophisticated model that's getting to root cause dysfunction, we're left with more shit to do than was ever imaginable 20 years ago. So if the client, once again, is hip to a lot of the knowledge, but yet is overwhelmed with all the things that they're supposed to do, we're going to have to be strategically minded with this sequence of how we'll go about implementing all of these changes that we know are in our best interest. I can sum it up by saying this. The new model of coaching isn't I tell you what to do. The new model of coaching is you tell you what to do based on the information that you have. And so what's different? Well, instead of me shooting all over you, I'm going to listen. Instead of talking, I'm going to get you to talk. So here's a fun little social experiment to just highlight the discrepancies and the differences between the two. If you're a coach, in very short order, somebody's going to explain or talk to you about something that's really hard for them, some challenge that they have. Heck, even if you're not a coach, if you can just perk your ears to the monologues that are happening to the left and right, somebody's going to share something that's hard for them. Here's an example. You know what? I've been trying to lose weight and I just can't do it. Now, here's what I want you to do as a response. I want you to try to fix them on the spot. If they say, I've been trying to lose weight and I just can't do it, I want you to say, well, have you ever tried intermittent fasting? Or, you should really get on GLP-1. Something where it feels like you have the golden ticket for whatever it is that's hard for them. If they say, I can't find balance, you say, man, have you tried that app for scheduling? Or be like, you know what, you should really get a Franklin planner. I tell you what, don't even do this because I can just jump to the punchline. It doesn't work very well. It doesn't work unless one person is so desperate for that information or they're completely brand new that all of the information is pretty novel and exciting to them. Now, better yet, I do want you to do this social experiment. When they say those things that are hard, hey, I'm having trouble losing weight. Hey, I'm really having a hard time finding balance. Instead, simply reflect, like you're holding up a mirror to the words that came out of their mouth. Simply reflect the sentence that you just heard. So if somebody says, hey, I'm having trouble losing weight, you say, so you're really focused on getting healthy. You're jumping to the conclusions of what they're trying to say to you. Or you say to the person that's trying to find balance, being excellent at more than one thing is really important to you. Now, those hypothetical problems that I just said aren't yours, but would you agree that it felt pretty good for me to say those things back? And why is that? Well, it's a way that I can show you that I get it. It's a way that you feel, even though they're not your problems, that I understand that it's a challenge. So why does this work? Why is this so valuable? I'm going to go out on a limb and say something that's very obvious, but it's not thought about very often. The conversations that we have that result in someone doing something different are based on whittling down what we really believe. Whittling down what you really believed is based on this format: statement, clarifying statement, clarifying of the clarifying statement, and so on and so forth. But it's not being told what you should think. Now, some of the best conversations in the world that we hear through podcasts and other formats, they follow that exact framework. Listen to a Joe Rogan podcast. He's very rarely sitting there and asking them point-blank questions. He's listening, he's challenging what they're saying, or he's validating it with some statement of its own. Now, whether Joe knows this or not, in the world of psychology, this is called a reflection or looping, and it's an incredibly effective technique to decide what somebody really believes. Now, why would that be important? Well, because if you can't really force someone to do something, it might be helpful as an alternative to learn what someone is really prepared to do and then just hold them accountable for it. Now, we've gone over one, but I wanted to give you 3 more options for how you can listen and then start to clarify what it is that someone is actually saying that they're willing to do. The first one is what we talked about. It's simple. A 5-year-old could hear the words that you say and then turn around and say it back to you. Hey, I've been really trying to lose weight and I can't do it. So you're focused on wanting to lose weight. It's as simple as that. Now, in the previous example I gave you, it's trying with one level of filtration to reflect back what you think is the reason that they're saying this. Hey, I can see that this is really important for you to get healthy, right? It's one little ellipsis from thought to clarification. Now, the second option is what's called an amplified reflection. A lot of times when people talk, they use really dramatic language. Always, never. It's these words to try to get our attention. It's these words to make sure that we're listening. All that we're going to do is say that exactly back to them the way that it was said. If somebody says, you know what, I'm just too busy. I don't have any time to exercise. An amplified reflection might say, so you're telling me that from 5 a.m. until 9 p.m., you're working and you're never taking a break. That sentence is so exaggerated that either they'll have to double down and say, okay, yeah, that's not really true, or they'll have to clarify what is true. Now, when you do that, one little caveat, make sure there's no sarcasm in your voice, which is a hard thing for me to do. Now, the third of 4 reflections is called a double-sided reflection. If you listen to someone monologue long enough, you're going to hear contradictions in what they're saying. They may tell you that they really want to get healthy, and in one sentence they talk about why that's so important, but in the very next sentence they talk about how every Friday night they're going out with their buddies to drink beers and watch sports. A double-sided reflection is putting those two sentences together with just the word "and." So in one sentence, you told me that it really is important to you to lose weight and you want to care as much as you possibly can about your health. And you just said that you really love going out and drinking with your friends on the weekend. That's it. Let them clarify what that really means. Let them clarify which of those two is really important and see where the conversation goes. And then last but certainly not least is what's called a feeling reflection. If you're in any type of committed relationship, this may be the most valuable thing that you'll hear today. It's also called echoing the emotion, and we draw attention not to the words being said, but to the body language that you're observing. So often people say things, but their body betrays that they actually feel something else, or their body's communicating a deeper level of understanding of the words that they're saying. For example, hey, I noticed when you said that, your shoulders went up and your face got red. Or, hey, it sounds like you're really angry about this. Am I getting this right? All you're doing is trying to commentate on what it is that you're seeing, because there's a lot that can be communicated through nonverbal language. Yes, there's a time and a place to share information, but it's so much less than you think. The people that are coming to you to be coached are not bumbling idiots, and they can get their hands on this information that you possess pretty quickly, but what they need help with, and they can't substitute for a robot, is where to start, how to progress, and how to keep moving forward. That's what they need you for. And if that's true, and it is, it means that they'll need this clarification on what's really important so they know how to start. So for the next coaching conversation that you have, before they come in, I want you to say this exact sentence. This person is smart, and they have the information. We just have to understand exactly what they want to do with it. There's no downside to this, except it's, in conversation, something that takes a lot more work. This has been a monumental statement about incremental change, brought to you by the good people at BPR.
Subscribe!